Now, podcasting around the world. It's the Marquee DJ and Photo Booth Conference Podcast. The podcast featuring all things DJ and photo booth for the industry professional trying to improve and grow their business. Known to his mother and father as Keith Christopher Kokoris and known to the industry as KC, here is the Marquee Show producer himself, your host, KC.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Marquee DJ and Photo Booth Podcast, or Conference Podcast. I am KC, your host, just like the intro said. Welcome to the podcast today. We're super excited to have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Scott Faver out of the beautiful state of Arizona. I know what you're thinking. It's a shame that he's so shy. So welcome to the podcast, Scott. Thanks for being here. Excited about having you as part of the Marquee Show this year again.
Again. Thank you so much, KC.
Yeah, by all means.
Yeah, great show. Leaps and bounds above all the others. Hold on, there's some brown stuff on my nose here. Let me just wipe that off.
Gotcha.
But truly, most shows are glitz and glamour, and you have some of that. But your show, the Marquee Show, is so education focused that it really, really makes a difference. Business professionals,
right,
and those who want to be business professionals attend the Marquee Show.
And with this going into technically our fourth year with a 1-year vacation, thanks to COVID, the nice part is our manufacturers are coming around and we're getting more and more interest in more and more people. So our show floor will continue to grow as well, so that if you're watching this, it's not just education, it's also going to be about the show floor. It's really the whole package. It's a huge buffet of knowledge and advertisers and great people in the industry. And so we're super excited. June 22nd through the 24th, and then the 25th will be if any of our presenters choose to do like a day of education or private tutoring as well. But you want to be there Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So Scott is going to be joining us again, and Scott's claim to fame, which we have been able to incorporate into our show, is Breakfast with the Game Master, Scott Faver himself. And if you haven't been there, it really, your Breakfast with the Game Master is like a breakfast buffet. There's a little bit of everything for everybody, from actual games to marketing advice, blogging advice, sales advice, performing advice. I mean, you cover a lot of stuff in a very short period of time. So it really is, it is like a breakfast buffet where you can go and grab whatever you want to and go from there. So I know you. I know a lot of our listeners know you, but let's pretend for a minute there are people that have been under a rock for the last 20 or so years that have said, who's this guy? So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, so to speak, and give everybody kind of, let's do the who, what, when, where, how, why as to how you have gotten to 2021.
Well, first of all, the Party Favors is my DJ company, and everybody said, oh, they're going to call you for those little things, the trinkets, the Party Favors. It's like, yes, but my last name is Faver, hence the Party Favors. And we've lived with that name for the last 41 years.
So old.
Yeah, I'm ancient. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 1980, everybody was going wiki, 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 and so was I. And that's how I started. And I went to this DJ show in Las Vegas and said to the guy, I've got an idea about having some games, and you should have some games to teach DJs how to perform. And he said, okay, let's have a panel. And so I showed up and said, let's do the panel. And the panel was me, just one person. And instead of having one or two games, I had to share a full hour of games.
Gotcha.
And that's how I got onto the DJ circuit of teaching people.
Let's go back even further. Let's go back.
Oh, you want to go back further?
Let's go back to you picked up a record for the first time, or in your age of 78, and
Stop.
I forgot. I think it was I interviewed Joe Bunner, Mike Walter, one of the guys, and I said he's so old he DJ'd the first wedding at Cana with Jesus. and that was that.
That's
So
John Ross, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. But no, let's go back to the beginning, man. Tell us how you got your roots in the DJ business, and
Oh yeah.
and listen, we all have relatable backgrounds. Joe Bunn and I were talking about terrible marketing things we did on college campuses, marketing fraternities and sororities. And the funny part was, I said, yeah, I used to literally duct tape flyers to the concrete, like angry grow, onto the sidewalks. So when people were walking and looking down, they would see our Astro Bright yellow flyers. He's like, oh my God. He goes, that's a good idea. Like in circa 1987, 88, like it was a matter of like, how did you get your name out there? There was no social media. There was no internet.
Right.
And we both had the tearaway bulletin board. Remember when grocery stores would have the community bulletin board and someone would be selling a car and you'd like tear off the phone number? I did that by stapling, and he's like, I did the same thing. So we both had, everyone's got a relatable past. We're like, oh, I remember doing something like that, or oh, I remember my first bridal show. So tell us about the beginning and the beginning of DJ Scott Faver.
So I'm a bedroom DJ, right?
Okay.
Closet DJ. I'm doing wiki on vinyl with my 1200s in my bedroom.
Roughly what year is this?
1979,
Okay.
78.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And everybody's roller skating.
All righty.
So I go to a roller rink and I'm skating like everybody else. And my brother, my twin, identical, goes over to the manager and says, my brother is the best DJ in the world. He's better than that idiot you have in the booth, and you should hire my brother right now. Of course, you can see me. No pressure. I'm hiding in the corner. You think I'm like brash right now, but at the time, I'm like, oh my God, I'm embarrassed. So the manager comes over and says, you in the booth Wednesday night, we'll see. So I bring my crates of records, I show up, and I play for about 10 minutes. And the door to the booth bangs open. And the manager's standing there larger than life. He looks at me, towering over me, and he says, what are you doing every Wednesday and Friday?
That's hilarious.
True story. And I have never stopped since.
See, now again, relatability. Dave Lander, Digital Dave, was speaking at our show. Also, originally a roller rink DJ, just like you. So we all have a similar background.
Mm-hmm.
So keep going.
Well, from there were some club owners that saw me at the rink and said, why don't you come DJ a couple nights at the club? Now I'm doing rink, I'm doing club. Then people at the club said, hey, can you DJ my whatever, wedding, birthday, anniversary? Now I'm giving up the rink, just doing the club and moving into mobile. Mm-hmm. And then, 4 a.m. after hours on Friday night, and then 9 a.m. wedding ceremony on Saturday.
Sure.
Relatable, I'm sure, to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
But I transitioned, and then I gave up the club and just went mobile.
Right.
And then jumped into corporate. And from there, it was just nonstop.
Gotcha. Very good. See, everyone's got a relatable story. I'm sure there are people listening going, this guy's got my life story. Except for maybe the twin brother. So
right. Who's thumping the Bible right now.
Right. So there's that. So then again, fast forward, then you attended, I'm assuming, a Mobile Beat show. So it's okay to use all the names. I'm totally okay with that, even though they're technically my competitors. I believe education across the board. It's the old adage, all the rising tide raises, or the incoming tide raises all ships. So again, whether you get your education through the Marquee Show, Midwest DJs Live, DJ Expo, the Photo Booth Association, ARM DJs, the DJs Vault, whatever, just please, if you're listening to this, the one thing myself and everyone who comes on the show will tell you is don't stop learning. Keep putting yourself out there, despite how many years you've been doing it, despite how much your wedding wire reviews say you're great. Just keep learning, because there's Michael Jordan had a coach, Tiger Woods had a coach, actors have coaches, everybody has coach. Like the most successful people in the world continue to educate themselves.
I have something for you.
Okay.
personal development always precedes business development.
Right.
That means the education, the information, and the process that you go through now will always come before the growth of your business. And if you're not taking the time to invest in you, then your clients won't either.
Sure.
So invest in you and your clients will too.
Great. So now you went to a DJ show, you were an attendee, then you said, hey, I've got an idea. And I'm assuming back in those days, it would have been Mike Bonacorso.
Wow. Take us back in the day. That is correct. That was Mike that did that to me.
And so all of a sudden you were doing a panel by yourself, a panel of one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming it was a hit because, in the beginning, I didn't go to a lot of the Mobile Beat shows. I was more of an East Coast guy. I've been going to shows since 1990, but I was mostly a DJ Times guy. And then after a couple of years I got dragged into Mobile Beat, which was a totally different set of...
a different vibe.
Totally, completely. We're East Coast. And at the time I was younger, I was doing far more bar mitzvahs in schools. And we were doing weddings, but I thrived for the interactive... we had the troupe of dancers. We had, it was just a much different scene. And I related far more to the East Coast style than kind of the West Coast, more I'm going to say traditional wedding DJs. That was really what a large portion of it was. They're really, the bar mitzvah panels were very thinly attended because it was just different, and the vibe was different. So,
I'll tell you a quick story, Casey.
Yeah, of course.
About my education in bar bat mitzvahs. I was schooled by a very successful band leader.
Okay.
And the leader of the band was actually the drummer.
All right.
And I watched this man work the drums and his microphone. And he had kids doing everything you could possibly imagine. They were dancing, they were screaming, they were singing, they were playing, they were doing all this stuff. And he never left his drum stool.
Okay.
He was the Pied Piper that could get them to do anything. And it's one of the things that I learned that, we have all of our stuff. We've got our props and our wireless microphones and our hip hop dancers and all this stuff that's surrounding us to try and get kids to say, go away, don't bother me. Right? And here's this entertainer who could, with just his voice, get them to do anything.
Well, what's interesting is a friend of mine, his name is Brett Lavender. He worked for Richie Hart from Heart to Heart way back in the day. And Heart to Heart was a major brand name DJ entity in the bar and bat mitzvah world in New York. And they were one of the first companies bringing out an organized show with dancers and that. And Brett's first day on the job, he said, is there anything specific you want me to do? And Richie Hart said, yes. He goes, really easy. He said, be entertaining. And that was it. And Brett said it was the best advice he had ever been given by anybody in our industry. Because at the end of the day, no matter what style of DJ you are, if you are a club style beat mixing DJ, if you have incredibly deep pipes and you like to tell love stories, or, it's just a matter of programming your night like you're a piano bar DJ, be entertaining, whatever style that fits you, that suits you. If you're the head of the conga line, if you don't say a word and you let your music do the speaking, just be entertaining. And I think it's fantastic.
I totally agree. And there's no right and there's no wrong for any of those points of entertainment as long as you're entertaining.
Right.
And for DJs who say, well, if you don't mix, then you're not really a DJ. That's not true.
It's the same thing with wearing pants. You don't have to wear pants. You can wear
shorts. You want to see my shorts?
You can wear shorts when interviewing celebrities. It's completely acceptable. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Apparently, others think otherwise, but, we've proven that I can still be a force within the DJ industry, even wearing shorts. So 6 years ago, and it still comes up. 6 years ago now.
Let it go.
I hear you. So Breakfast with the Game Master, where did that come from?
I had done the shows for a few years in a row, and a tip and the story all wrapped into one nice little bowed package here for you. So I'm doing the shows, and everybody comes to me after I've presented, and they have questions. What about this? And what about that? And how do you do? And what if this happens? And how many times? And all these questions. And it was too much because there's just never enough time.
Right.
So I said, listen, I'm having breakfast at 6 a.m. in the morning at, the coffee shop. If you have more questions, come join me. I'm happy to have breakfast with anybody who shows up.
Sure.
And they showed up.
Okay.
I got 20, 30 people showing up in the room for breakfast. And it became a thing. And we talked about everything, as you described, games, marketing, music, everything in between. But here's the tip that I wanted to share with you.
Yeah.
The presenter, and I mean all of the presenters. I mean, the shows move fast. I mean, presenter gets off the stage and the next one comes up. But if you have the chance to be a fly on the wall, go say hello to the person who just presented. And don't ask 1,000 questions. Just listen to the questions and the answers. Because a lot of the times there's things that they can't or won't say from the stage that they will say one-on-one to somebody in a group there, or that they didn't have time to give you all that information, and you'll just walk away with the wealth.
And I'll say this, do not ever be afraid to approach anybody at a show or honestly in life, as long as you're polite and respectful, whether it's a celebrity or otherwise. And I'll tell you, I went to, everyone here has heard of Sweetwater Music in Indiana, humongous retailer. They had Gear Fest. It's about 3.5 hours from Chicago. I got up, a friend of mine, and he kept me company, 5 a.m., drove to Sweetwater, got there about 9 o'clock. As the doors were opening, Chuck, the owner, is there doing interviews for the local television station in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He gets done with it, and I turn to my buddy Jerry, and I go, I want to meet this guy. And he's like, what are you talking about? He goes, there's thousands of people coming here. Are you kidding me? He just got done doing a television interview. I'm like, so worst case scenario is he blows me off. Went over. He is considered the richest man in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which you'd never know. I went over. Now, for those of you who have heard of Sweetwater but never been there, it is the size of a a junior college. It is enormous. From an employee point of view, they have their own daycare center, cafeterias, complimentary movie rental like the old school Blockbuster. They have their own EMT on property. In the event you don't feel well or whatever, you can get diagnosed just like an immediate care facility. They have their own dry cleaner. You can take your clothes in. They farm it out. They have their own health club inside of there. They've really made it just like a college campus for the convenience of their employees as a benefit of working there. They have classrooms very much like a college campus with theater, auditorium style stuff. So when a rep comes in from Pioneer or a sound company or whatever, he has every tool possible to educate everyone that you and I as consumers talk to on the phone. And so let's say Pioneer, for example, comes out with their new mixer. They send a rep to Sweetwater to demonstrate all the bells and whistles so that each person that you speak with, your personal assigned rep, knows exactly when you say, I'm looking for the new Pioneer ABC123 controller, he or she knows it inside and out, whether that's guitars, whether that's, whatever department they're in, they totally fully train. And so GearFest is essentially their open house, and it is massive. And when I say this is like a college campus, I'm talking complete with like 30, 40, 50 acres, whatever it might be. So the entire outside of the place had tents, just like a festival, and like Bose had a tent, and JBL had a tent, and all of these things. And you just went around just like a festival. It was massive. So in the whole cast of all of this, I want to meet the owner, right? Like he doesn't have 10 million things going on. Went over, unbelievably down to earth, unbelievably cool, nice guy. In the lobby of this huge atrium, like a college campus or a huge mega church type of thing, He has a VW bus with all of this equipment on display hanging out. He got his start. He got his start being a mobile recording studio for bands. And what happens where the bands were like, oh, I love the sound of this microphone. Where can I get this? He goes, oh, I'll sell you this one right now. And he sold it to him and for bands. And what happens where the bands were like, oh, I love the sound of this microphone. Where can I get this? He goes, oh, I'll sell you this one right now. And he sold it to him. And anything. So he became the go-to guy for all of this gear in the, I think it was the 60s. And that's how he started. And so he's got a replica VW bus styled after the one that he had when he first started. And he was so proud to show me how he started, told me his story, just like I asked you your story. People have asked me my story. And I mean, this guy is Sweetwater is an institution in mail order and such. And I can't speak highly enough about the organization, him. And again, just like every presenter at Marquee is totally approachable. And if you as an attendee get the opportunity to approach anybody and say, can we have coffee? Do you have a minute? Can we swap cards? I know in my DJ career, I have never had anybody be like, no, go away, or you're a peon or whatever. And I'll tell you, some of the best lifelong friends that I have were people I met, Johnny Roz, yourself, I mean, countless others that you meet. And you know what? You find out we started the same way. Oh, you were at a roller rink, I was at a roller rink. Oh, you had this on, you started on vinyl, I started on vinyl. Oh, you had a business partner that left you, I had a business partner. Like, you to be amazed at the parallels that we all have in this industry. And so again, competition is competition. I totally get it, but there's so much at all of these shows that even if your competitor is sitting four rows down from you, like, each one of you can walk away with so much information that you absorb for your purposes. And again, it's like everything in life. You look at somebody putting ham and pineapple on a pizza and are disgusted, and other guys are like, oh, it sounds delicious. So like you said, there's no right way or wrong way. And these shows really give you so much information that you can now decide how you want to make your own pizza, so to speak, what fits for you. And you go from that point of view, and I've loved the shows. I'm all about education. I've done the Anthony Robbins stuff. I've done landmark education. I've done so many personal things for personal development, and I love the professional development. I love seeing presenters present at NACE, ILEA, all kinds of stuff. And so I think one of the reasons that this is so passionate for me is producing this show. Because I'll tell you right now, not a big shock. The first 2 years, we have not made any money. But especially coming out of this pandemic, I think the timing is right. I've said this on multiple podcasts so far. As you know, the city of Chicago in the month of June and July are beautiful times. So if you have to tie it in with a family vacation, make the drive. Flights to O'Hare are super inexpensive. The hotel has complimentary parking. So I've done everything possible to give us the nicest experience, the best education, and be as cost effective as possible. So,
and we're going to be entertaining.
That's true. Very, very true. We're going to have a good time. And Scott's kicking it off on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday with his own breakfast with the game. Technically, you're speaking more than anybody, really. You've got seminars all 3 days, not to mention your love in the hallways. So,
bring your own breakfast.
Yep.
And be ready to have the time of your life.
Very good. So, Scott, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story and what our attendees can expect. So if you're listening to this podcast, we hope that you'll join us. If you can't join us in person, you can join us with a virtual pass. And so we'll be streaming via Zoom. And I've said this before, no, you can't buy a DVD. You have to at least commit the time. You're not going to be able to see a pre-recorded Scott Faver. You're going to have to experience him live, just like everybody else 8 o'clock in the morning Chicago time. So if you're on the West Coast, you're going to have to set the alarm. But, if you believe in yourself and your career, you'll make that choice. So,
word.
Yeah. So thank you, Scott, for being on here. Looking forward to having you. And everybody for tuning in again. Thank you so much. We will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Marquee Show Podcast. Make sure that you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Join the Marquee Show community group on Facebook to continue the discussion of today's show. And of course, make sure you visit www.marqueeshow.com for information about this year's conference and all things Marquee.